Every 4 years, a tournament arrives that causes collective multi-million-pound mass hysteria in the transfer market, completely destroying years of careful scouting in a matter of weeks. Welcome to the World Cup, where overinflated prices, PR panic buys, and tactical misfits cause absolute havoc on club football. And here's why.
And the header's in! Enner Valencia!
To start with, we have the problem of overinflated prices and the knock-on effects that they cause. When a player shines at the World Cup, the footballing bigwigs at the biggest clubs instantly experience a severe case of FOMO. They know that if they've seen these big performances from said player, everyone else in the world must have as well. They aren't scouting in a lesser-known country with only 6 people and the dog watching. They're watching the exact same thing that quite literally billions of others have seen. And they'll often come to the conclusion that so many others do. If a player can dominate a World Cup game, surely they can dominate the Champions League, dominate the league, and well, we've got to sign him now before anyone else does, whatever it costs. And therein lies the problem. Let's look at Enzo Fernandez and his move to Stamford Bridge. Benfica originally signed the midfielder from River Plate for €10 million in August of 2022. Then, after just 7 World Cup games, a World Cup title and Young Player of the Tournament award, Chelsea thought they had to have him and shattered the British transfer record by meeting his astronomical €120 million release clause in January 2023, less than 6 months after he moved to Portugal. Whether you think he's worth it now in hindsight is neither here nor there. The madness comes from the fact that not only is that 12 times what he was worth a few months earlier, but that the amount put his value way above the actual best central midfielders in the world at the time. And that leads to chaos way further down the line. Enzo's hyperinflated fee completely warps the underlying valuations of the entire industry, establishes an absurd baseline, which then sees the likes of Moises Caicedo and Declan Rice push past the £100 million barrier because selling clubs use that temporary World Cup inflation as their reasoning behind such large valuations. Now here we are 3.5 years later, and we're about to see it again. Eillot Anderson and Sandro Tonali, both absolutely good players in their own right, but given how much others have gone for, Nottingham Forest and Newcastle United respectively, now won't let them go for anything under £100 million. This then pulls those players, I'd say a tier below them, like West Ham's Fernandez, up to the £80 million mark, and so on, all because Enzo Fernandez had a good World Cup and moved for ridiculous money. But not every move is actually worth it.
Hit by James! Oh, what a goal!
All of this money must be insanely difficult for a club and player to turn down, and you can see why they jump at the chance of moving, even if they aren't 100% sure that it's the best choice for them at the time, because, well, they might never get this chance again. Strike while the iron's hot, as the saying goes. When your stock is up, it's up, and if the chance to join a big club comes along, you take it and you ask questions later. However, one fallout of this is the expectation and pressure that comes with it. And we aren't just talking about the big price tags. Everyone, from the casual fans to the diehards to your new teammates at the club, expect to see exactly what they saw on television during the summer. No ifs, ands or buts. The big money signing who made headlines around the world better hit the ground running because they've done it on the biggest stage. So, what's a run-of-the-mill league game on a Tuesday night to them? Take 𝗬𝗏𝗏 Amrabat in 2022. He looked like the most elite industrial defensive anchor on earth during Morocco's historic semi-final run in Qatar. Desperate for midfield steel, Manchester United paid a pretty high €10 million loan fee just to get him from Fiorentina the following summer. But once he arrived at Old Trafford, the reality of a wide-open Premier League system completely exposed his lack of ability, leaving him isolated, heavily criticised, and benched for the majority of the season. But the biggest example, how could we forget, was James Rodriguez. Now, before the 2014 World Cup, he was a highly rated asset at Monaco, arguably the best player in Ligue 1 that season, but would you have had him down to make a post-tournament move to Real Madrid as their 4th most expensive signing of all time at £63 million, becoming the most expensive Colombian ever, and being given the number 10 shirt? I don't think many would have taken that bet. However, after scoring 6 goals in 5 games, including that wonder volley against Uruguay, that is exactly what happened. His first season was brilliant under Ancelotti, but in that tiny ecosystem of World Cup, Real couldn't account for loss of form, injury worries, overall fitness, and the consistency needed throughout the course of the coming seasons. Due to all of these, and let's be fair, the fact that he was fighting for a starting spot alongside Bale, Benzema and Cristiano, James struggled and you could argue didn't live up to the expensive billing and never really regained form wherever he went throughout the rest of his career. They are paid for their history over a 4-week span, which might not reflect their value over a grueling 10-month season. But financial reasoning aside, one of the many overlooked aspects in the transition from the World Cup to club football is the tactical side of the game.
Oh, it's a lovely little ball, and Podolski's got two.
Now, if there was one word of warning to come out of the World Cup, it would be this. Don't make the fatal mistake of thinking that international tournament football and elite club football are the same, because they aren't. National team managers only get a few weeks a year to work with their squads. They can't coach complex, highly coordinated, modern pressing systems or intricate build-up play. As a result, most, not all, but World Cup matches are played at a much slower, more cautious and deeply conservative tempo. Teams sit in compact low blocks, protect the centre of the pitch and minimise risk. And this creates the ultimate illusion of the international specialist. Let's take Lukas Podolski here, a certified legend for Germany, scoring a staggering 49 goals and 130 caps. Yet, when he earned a massive move to Bayern Munich ahead of winning the World Cup's best player in 2006, his career somewhat stalled, scoring just 15 league goals across 3 seasons, during which he scored 21 for the national team. Injuries didn't help, neither did Luca Toni joining the club, but clearly there was a marked difference between the style, tactics and personnel that didn't allow his international form to translate to club level. Even Harry Maguire's career perfectly illustrates this. During the 2022 World Cup, Maguire was statistically magnificent, anchoring an English defence that kept 3 clean sheets because Gareth Southgate deployed a deep defensive line where Maguire was dribbled past a total of 0 times in 5 games. Yet in that same season and the one after, he was benched at Manchester United because Solskjaer/Rangnick/Ten Hag's high pressing system completely exposed his lack of recovery speed in wide open spaces, and it saw him dribbled past 0.41 times per game. So if you're saying at this point, Matt, but that World Cup statistic is only over a short period, yeah, that's the whole point. That's where the World Cup can skew the data because the sample size just isn't big enough to go off, but teams and clubs still do. They watch a player thrive in one ecosystem and then wonder why they look completely lost when thrown into another. I think the key here would be to do some scouting in the long term, but even then, some clubs are struck by their worst unexpected, unplanned nightmare. Video aside for a second, and here's a hypothetical question for you. Imagine you're on your holidays during the World Cup or travelling somewhere for work and you can't get your World Cup fix. You've got your TV licence sorted to watch the coverage in the UK, but not abroad. So what do? Well, our friends at Tom's Guide have the answer because they've tested a wide range of VPNs and NordVPN stands out as a strong option. Fast, reliable, and it comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee, enough to cover the entire World Cup tournament, so you can try it risk-free. And the best bit, for all FourFourTwo viewers, there is also an exclusive offer available. All you have to do is click the link in the description to find out more.
Depay's made a run into the middle. Depay!
Now this is the ultimate chaos-causing scenario, and it's injuries. Especially nowadays with the newly expanded tournament schedule piling an unprecedented number of games onto an already exhausted player calendar, a single World Cup injury functions as the ultimate Uno reverse card when it comes to the transfer window planning. When a player suffers an injury throughout the campaign, aside from the winter transfer window, it's rarely met with a panic buy or reaction. Clubs are in the midst of long-term planning, they have their backups and are regularly managing minutes so that they control, as much as you can control, the probability of a big injury. But during the World Cup, away from their clubs, an injury can set off a chaotic domino effect that freezes or forces transfers across multiple leagues simultaneously. Buying clubs are suddenly forced into emergency panic buys, while selling clubs are forced to halt planned departures to protect their own squad depth, trapping players who are already counting on a dream move. I mean, look at 𝗕𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗏, the German and Borussia Dortmund centre-back, who's been in great form. There was talk of a move to Real Madrid in the air. Then disaster struck with an injury in the World Cup group stage, and it looks as though that move is now off. Of course, injuries can happen at any point during a World Cup or regular season, but that does now mean that Dortmund have to call off their search for a defender. Can they count on the 60 million odd euros they would have got for 𝗧𝗏𝗏 to fund a new transfer, or a stadium upgrade, or a new training ground? And what about Real Madrid? All that scouting wasted. They now have to look for someone else, negotiate with an entirely different club, a new agent, a new individual. Rumour has it that Inter Milan's Alessandro Bastoni is now the one they want, which then forces Inter Milan into a decision they didn't think they'd have to make. The World Cup is yet another high-stakes tournament proving that the entire football economy is highly volatile and completely at the mercy of a single twisted ankle or torn muscle at any given moment. Ultimately, the World Cup takes a sport defined by long-term data analysis and structural consistency and coaching and distorts it into a game of high-stakes 4-week chance. The team that actually wins the transfer window then may in fact be the one who doesn't sign the tournament's new headline act, doesn't fall into the trap of believing everything they've seen on TV, and sticks to the meticulous scouting files that they've already compiled months ago.